All right, welcome to Now, or at least almost now, but that's what we're going to be getting to. As we go into the Steel Age, I talked a little bit about the Steel Age mixed in with last lessons. Some of the stuff I have written here certainly still covers some of what the Steel Age I was going to talk about because I kind of merged some of the lessons together. As I said, I changed some of the lessons up. So for this week, again, we're just going to be talking about finishing out some of the media is how I'm going to talk about this. Then we're going to get some modern times and talk a little bit about independent comics. Boom, because that's what modern times are all about. That said, I'm going to be posting other videos of independent comics. There are far too many for me to be like, oh, make sure you get, Mouse is one of them, and then you got to make sure you do, oh, this one's very important, and this one, and this one, and they just go. Planetary is an amazing one. Obviously, The Walking Dead, Why the Last Man, The Filth. Those are all some pretty critical independent comics. Then you've got Lumberjills is pretty recent. You've got Snot Girl, awesome. You've got I love Scotty Young's Wizard of Oz, what he does with the Wizard of Oz. I love Scotty Young. He's great. And so there's a bunch. This is me literally like just boop, 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 and I didn't name anything. I really didn't name anything. Okay, there's so many independent comics that I'm going to do my best. I'm going to find a resource for you to look at some of these independent comics. I already know of one. I believe it's a Vulture article I'm going to pinpoint, and it's about 100 independent comics. Pretty interesting. So it's just something that I'm going to save some time on this by finding a better resource because there's just so many great ones. I'm sure there is even like a countdown list video. So I'll make that. I'll make those appear. So that'll be interesting. But this is the last week, so a lot of that has to do with just going toward it. I don't know if I'm gonna throw some discussion questions at you, but maybe I throw one toward the end of the time, real quick, just so I know you're still looking. But anyway, let's talk about media. Let's talk about media and how that has affected everything. So I've been sprinkling it through all the lessons ever since the Superman radio show, all the way to Batman Adam West, and then all the way to the Superman movie in 1979. And then you've got, some duds after that. Marvel makes an attempt at one of the worst Punisher movies, then with like Dolph Lundgren, I think. And then the Fantastic Four gets made. It's a Roger Corman disaster piece. I recommend watching it. It's so bad it's good. Marvel's still not super confident in their movies as they release Blade, but they don't reveal it's based on a Marvel comic. They just released the movie Blade, but don't really hype it as the Marvel comic superhero Blade. So pretty interesting. It's just their lack of confidence in that department. Whereas by now, Warner Brothers is doing pretty well. I mentioned Lois and Clark in the last one that came out early 90s. That's because of the Michael Keaton Batman, which came out in 1989. I remember getting picked up from school the day that came out and said, we're going to see Batman. I couldn't believe it because it was a smaller time and I was a young kid. So you don't count down the days till something comes out. You don't quite understand. It's not like you have your date book saying today's the day. And I just wasn't aware, but it was the last day of school and I get picked up and we go straight to go see Batman. And it was phenomenal. I remember the opening of Batman has an animated sequence with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck selling you merch. So even that blew me away. I remember that. It's funny, like I say, when I started this class talking about like these memories that stick out forever. I remember that so vividly. Just such a surprise to go see the Batman movie. And I was 8. So it was pretty great, pretty fun. The Ninja Turtles come out. They have a movie, obviously Ninja Turtles Rise. Then you've got these animated shows, the animated X-Men, which is now available on Disney Plus. I recommend it. 90s X-Men is just phenomenal. Batman the animated series has come out right after Batman, then Batman Returns, and then they start to slip with Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. All right, and then those movies get kind of cheeseball again. But the reason that Batman is the way that we know him today is because of that Frank Miller Batman, and then also that's what made that Michael Keaton Batman happen, which really emphasizes that Batman is the Dark Knight, So that was kind of the importance of why that Batman movie mattered a lot. I told you the importance of the Superman movie, how it got the creator rights back for Siegel and Schuster. I believe I did finally go over that because I was going to save it for this, but I'm like, let me just finally say it. And I did just say it, I believe, in an older video. They get paid, they get a pension from DC Comics for their work on Superman when the film is released. It was organized by several creators. I believe one of the creators of Captain America was behind some of it. And it was a really big deal. And again, a big jump for creator rights. Now, Marvel finally goes for it, right? And they're not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe yet. So Marvel does go for it with X-Men. So X-Men comes out around 1999, 2000. I remember because I still had it on VHS, which is shocking. And X-Men is surprisingly, it's a hit, but it's still surprisingly pretty basic if you look at special effects and what a big budget film looks like today. The X-Men is still really pretty small, but does a great job, especially with the casting, and that's what's important. You can go back and make fun of Halle Berry's terrible accent in the first one because she kind of loses it halfway through and then she forgets it by X2. X2 is one of the best comic book movies ever made. Again, not there's still no blood. It's still not super violent. You know, Wolverine gets to lash out in this one, and that's a big difference. But X2 is a really good one, and now we're kind of moving along, and then that brings us to Spider-Man. Spider-Man finally comes out, and I got to see it there in New York City in one of those pictures I showed you, where it was like right there in New York City, big the Spider-Man Thanksgiving Day parade balloon was hanging on the building. When those opening credits started to go see Spider-Man, I was seeing it with my best friend. It was the year I just graduated. I was graduating college, going for comics. They finally make a Spider-Man movie, and as I'm like this kind of, again, feeling like I'm this perfect age for it, and then it sets a box office record. It does better, and then I think it's $156 million. And everyone was like, what? Blown away that Spider-Man does that. I remember it made the front page of the newspaper that Spider-Man did so well. So that tells you that we're off and running, believing in our superhero franchises in the movies. All right. DC starts to follow, trying to bring back Superman with Superman Returns. Does not go very well. That was their version of like, he's playing Christopher Reeves play Superman. It was pretty interesting. And now that dude plays the Atom on the CW. So pretty fun. Brandon Routh, they've made fun of it. They've made the connection and the joke about the double casting of that. And then really it gets to Iron Man, and Iron Man is the pinnacle of where they start to say, we're going to create this Marvel Cinematic Universe. Iron Man was a big jump as a film. Iron Man's just a very good movie. It's a very good movie. And it's the effects jump. It's one of the first times you see someone being like, boop, 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 boop. Let me play with, the virtual keyboard and do the virtual computer, right? So it's pretty interesting. Right as this time is the Christopher Nolan Batman. As Batman begins to save Batman again, right? From the last cheesy version that we just saw with Batman and Robin, Mr. Freeze, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Again, if you've never seen it, go watch that piece of trash. It's amazing. You cannot play the drinking game of every time Mr. Freeze says a cliche pun like "Ice to see you, it's a cool party." If you take a drink, guess what? He does not have one real line of dialogue till like the climax of the film. Everything is some sort of pun. I'm not even lying. So funny. I found that out the hard way. So that's what kicks off the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Iron Man, and then believing in Iron Man, and then starting to be like, all right, let's go for it. And then they start to be like, we're going to create these movies that all connect, and they're going to connect. Captain America, this, that. It's really pretty great. Again, in this time, Fox had some flubs with the Fantastic Four. Fox screwed up a few things. Sony bombed with Spider-Man a couple of times after that. We had Spider-Man does great. Spider-Man 2 is revered by Sam Raimi again. Spider-Man 3 is made fun of, despised. It's a joke. It becomes a parody of itself. It's bad casting. So Spider-Man, let's revamp it. Now we're going to bring in Andrew Garfield for it's a different Spider-Man. And those didn't do that great. They only got to 2 of them, and they were such a throwback to just bad 90s movies. And just low budget feeling, right? And then they just canceled those, and then they bring Sony strikes that deal, and Spider-Man shows up in the Marvel Civil War. And I remember when that trailer dropped, everyone was so pumped to see Spider-Man. And you see, they finally did Spider-Man right as they make that Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love the kid they got playing Spider-Man now. I love those Spider-Man movies, and I love him in those crossover movies of the Avengers. Just fantastic what they did with the Avengers then. And all the way to Endgame, which now we're up to the next phase, and it's been a little delayed because of coronavirus and all that stuff. Mixing with television shows, you've got everything that happened on Netflix with Daredevil and Punisher and Jessica Jones, as well as Luke Cage. Luke Cage didn't do very well, and then they do a merge called The Defenders. They were supposed to go into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but there was a fight behind the scenes between the 2 separate creators, so things don't happen because of corporations. Sony tried to steal back Spider-Man, and they did get into disagreement for a month. And literally the actors like, please don't do this. Like, please, I'm begging you, let us continue doing this. Because just mind-numbing that it can come down to like these few people in a room are going to control everything we get to deal with, everything we watch, everything. Oh, we're going to take Spider-Man out. Too bad. Like, because money and egos. Like, come on, man. There's a greater good here, and it's called the fans. So that's how the movies really go, and you can see what that really is. It's all this trepidation, lots of missteps, but they finally hit it, and they try to stick with a winning formula, but then usually it falls away, right? Because you get parodied. The Marvel Cinematic Universe did a very good job. Again, Iron Man 3 is considered not the best Iron Man. I actually like Iron Man 3 a lot. By the time you start to get to these other one, a sequel and then a third, you are squeezed, you are wringing out that sponge. So that phase one really did. They timed it pretty well. There were not a lot of flops in that universe. And then even if there was, Thor 2 is not considered one of the best, but then Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite movies like of all time. It's just so fun. They borrowed from the Guardians of the Galaxy for sure. And that's a lot of it. That they really do a good job of that Marvel Cinematic Universe. They care about casting, not casting big stars, which again, DC, that they tried it, right? Didn't they try? And it didn't work as well. Ben Affleck Batman, and then the new Man of Steel, just so dark and gritty, right? And then they try to do it, and we're going to have Batman versus Superman. They throw too much into it. They throw Doomsday into that, Wonder Woman into that. We're going to mash it all together, right? Then the Justice League into the same movie. And now we're all going to finally come together, and, it's filled with some of these celebrity, casting, and it just, the effects were bad. And that's why now they did such a bad job. They're going to release the Zack Snyder cut, like the director's original vision. They did this once before with the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. And it turns out it's phenomenal. Superman 2, which is excellent, because the Superman franchise from 79, then in the 80, whatever. And by that fourth one, it's a disaster. Superman 4 is terrible. Superman 3 is horrible. And I mean horrible. Even Christopher Reeves had lost weight and he was even a little skinnier. So they were bad movies, cartoony, trash movies, because someone didn't respect comics. Oh, we got to make these things sillier. Because of that Adam West thing that's still going on in those early 80s. So now comics get super serious. The 90s gets super serious about film. Everyone's wearing that black leather like I was talking about in the last video. And movies become how these characters progress and grow for the audience and for the next generation of kids that love these characters. They're not all reading comics, but man, they got plenty of cartoons, toys, video games, action figures, and films and television series tie-ins to get them along. So that's a real big part of it. Now, that is one last thing in the movies. Notice what they do. All right, baby step, big leap. We're trying crossover. Now we're planning this 10-year epic. And it did just what comics do. Okay, well, I have a book. Now there's media. Batman and Superman meet for the first time on the Superman radio show, right? The Green Hornet shows up on Batman once just because they were doing that while they're climbing the building sideways. So the concept of crossovers was always fun in comics and with other companies, as well as in media, television, and movies. They were starting to do it. But now Marvel basically says, okay, we're just doing what we do with comics. Here's our single issues. Now a little crossover, some cameos, right? And then back to single, right? And then now we're going to do a bigger crossover and then a company-wide event. That's what that was, just in media form. Everyone's so blown away by the format. And I'm like, this is the same format they always use. This is the same thing. Whether this is a comic book that's for a year, or then a cartoon that has 5-parter, or a television series that does the same thing, right? A movie, same thing. Oh, now what a concept. What made you think to do this? They interview these directors like they're all geniuses for coming up with a crossover. So pretty ridiculous, right? I do love those Nolan Batmans. Obviously, that's where we get that Joker from. Now we have a new famous Joker with the Joker movie that, again, wins awards. It's unbelievable. That the comics have finally gotten the respect that they kind of deserve. There's a lot of hate right now because they're so popular. And even, you don't have your mainstream heroes now. You got everyone making hero movies with just brand new ideas, brand new characters, just people that have powers in general, that's some of it. So that's why people have superhero fatigue, which is what they had back in post-war times, superhero fatigue, right? Except, again, to the comic version of it. So now they are getting to the media version of superhero fatigue. I've gotten it a little bit. I took a little break after Endgame. I was like, that's enough, Umbrella Academy. I'll wait for you. And then I waited a while, and I watched Umbrella Academy. Let me tell you something. Umbrella Academy, a new modern comic done by Gerard Way. phenomenal book. But the adaptation that they did for Netflix, season 1 is one of the best things I've ever seen. Season 2 is great. Season 1, phenomenal. All right. So you got a lot of people taking a chance on comics, comic stories, comic universes. People are trying to buy universes. Like I told you, the Valiant universe, someone bought that. There was this thing called Valiant Comics. Someone's like, we're going to make it a cinematic universe. So might try and do it with Image Comics. We want to get these licenses and make an Image universe, cinematic universe. It is the future of what this all is because it's media. Christopher Nolan, the whole thing about the Nolanverse Batman, which is great, is they try to solve that Batman problem there too. I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. And then the guy's like, oh, right? What a good idea. What a good idea. The fact that Batman will always save the Joker, is one of the things. It's not even that he won't let him die. He'll save him. It's mind-numbing sometimes. But again, they deal with it. Again, I was talking about Joker War. It's excellent. So there's me with that, all that stuff. Oh, the famous Spider-Man movie, that kiss is a big moment. The upside-down Spider-Man kiss is actually a cinematic moment in history that a lot of people are like, wow, that was a moment, like Forrest Gump on a bench, So pretty great that they even have this iconic moment, that upside-down kiss. And then you have a lot of women that are like, oh, that's why it was a good couples date movie. It's about Spider-Man, Mary Jane. And there is a bit of that. And they said it's sexy. It's them in the rain. It was sexy. So that's a big part of what brings these movies together. You get more mainstream and you're getting more ladies, and that's important, are caring about comics. Comic books, as I said in the last video, they're the delivery mechanism for superheroes that are always going to prop them up as they get media going, because these comic books and these stories can take chances. They write 1,000 stories and like, look at that one that was a hit. We'll make that one a movie. That's why you see the Dark Phoenix over and over and over again. And they still haven't done it right with live action. A lot of people say that the reason with superheroes and these concepts, the type of this, even now, I told you DC going more positive and more pure. That's what they're trying to do. Hope is back in the DC universe. It's because people say we want to be heroes. We want to count. We want to make a difference. We want to not be afraid, right? And often a hero's resurgence is often in times of real world strife. And that's important. That's important because it shows you, why is DC doing what they're doing now? Probably because of how terrible things have felt for the past few years, right? It's interesting to see how that does line up. Another thing that happens, let's talk about the comic books, is the thing that defines this age is 9/11. The fact that this goes to like, oh, we'll call it 99. 2000 is still kind of the modern age. 9/11 really is what springs us into things are different. Captain America changes. He's going to fight terror. Captain America gets a little more violent. He says, I was a soldier first, So it's interesting that Captain America starts to get serious. His whole book becomes about fight terror. That's the theme of Captain America. Spider-Man is there with that 9/11 comic that all of you know about, because we all did that report on it. Most of you cited this one. Very important. Everyone's a little annoyed by Dr. Doom crying at the wreckage, and Magneto as well. These people have committed horrible murders in the past. But Dr. Doom is also a leader of a country and has a bunch of citizens that worship him as their leader. He did weep for innocence. Dr. Doom will protect Latverians, women, and children, because he's Dr. Doom. He's this different. He's evil, but he's not evil, but he is evil. He's evil. Because it's modern times. It's a little more. It's not black and white as much, like I've said with Magneto. Even right now, Dr. Doom is doing. For a while he was wearing pure white, trying to be now a hero. Like he wears pure white Dr. Doom. I don't know if he still calls Doom, but that's what he does, trying to repent. So pretty interesting, right? Apparently I'm stuck on that word. So interesting is the theme of the day. But that 9/11 thing happens. And then the reason that 9/11, the comic happens, and it's written by J. Michael Straczynski, is because those heroes really live in New York. And you were watching them deal with it and help. And this is the beginnings of honoring first responders and ambulances and hospitals and all the people doing that, and all the firefighters and all the police officers and all the city workers, anyone that pitched in, just doing anything, thanking everyone, which we are now living through again. What 9/11 does lead to ultimately is the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act is terrible. So is Patriot Act 2. Patriot Act is terrible. We lost a lot of freedom with the Patriot Act. We lost a lot of our privacy with the Patriot Act. And it wouldn't get revealed till Edward Snowden talks about it and reveals the thing that we did all know. We all knew that the government's listening, right? We all knew it, but we didn't know it. because it's the oldest joke in the book. But then when someone actually says, yes, they are, everyone goes, oh, wait, really? Wait, what? Unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. And that man had to leave the country. And he thought that he was going to get protected and they were going to send him right back. So then he went to Russia and then they protected him. And then that's the difference. Now, did Snowden do anything terrible? He was warning us. He was warning the American people. But one of the things that my friend says is that of all the people that are told and it's their job to keep government secrets, that's why if there's someone that goes and whistleblows and breaks one of those real government secrets that is considered like treason and he got to flee the country, you know, it's like that's how big a deal that is. And it shows you how often that happens, right? People don't share their government secrets. So this is the reason that the comics head toward this disparity and lead to civil war. That's the idea. They do a similar thing to the Patriot Act in the world of comics. They say, all these superheroes run around. And sure, like, yay, they're all brightly colored and yay, Avengers, right? But also vigilantes, aren't they? The Avengers are in the comics are not a government agency. They don't work for S.H.I.E.L.D. And when they do that in Heroes Reborn, they break away from S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point to be the Avengers, say, we don't work for the government anymore. We are our own superhero that do-gooders that do good. So get out of our way because we keep finding you're corrupt and keep finding you're evil. So that's what happens. That's what occurs. Now, in regular Marvel comics, they bring up the concept of, okay, why don't you just register? Like the Fantastic Four is like, yeah, I'm fine with it. Why not? I'll register because I'm Reed Richards. You all know who I am. This is Sue. We all know our identities. You know who doesn't register? I believe the Thing doesn't register. He's Jewish. He's terrified of what registration means because he's heard this story before. I think the Human Torch might be on with Reed and then goes with the other side eventually when he sees that he's wrong. But a bunch of certain superheroes are on one side. They're pro-government registration act. Sign up, give your identity away, and then we'll protect you. We'll help you be a superhero. You'll have access to this and to that. You just have to give us your secrets and let us monitor you. And some people, and then they say no, absolutely not. That's not freedom. That's not right. What could this lead to? Right? And the person asking that question is Captain America. And the one who used to be very anti is now Iron Man, is very pro-government. Now, Iron Man was pro-defense, but then that becomes his thing, right? Where he's very anti-government stuff because he realized he's the one selling the weapons to the government, no more government weapons. Okay? They even try to say that they own the Iron Man. It's like, no, you don't. It's mine. Okay? And he goes to fight for justice on his own and stops selling weapons to terrorists and weapons to other countries and stops funding wars. Well, now he, after all this time, he's more on the government side for this story and this action, this idea. Because remember, Tony Stark also comes out and says, I'm Iron Man. He's public about it, right? Something happened recently that I just read, I think it was last year, where they did a Superman story. Now, I don't know if it's stuck because of all the revamps. Clark Kent just comes out and says, and Superman says, I'm Clark Kent. And he announces it at a press conference because the concept of superhero identities is impossible. Secret identities does not work in modern times. It just doesn't. They come up with every excuse for Superman to have a secret identity. He used to technically vibrate his face a little bit, so every photo of him was technically blurred. Interesting, right? Show up with a clone, show up with a shapeshifter like Martian Manhunter. So here's Clark Kent and here's Superman. Like you do it like that, right? So he would always do that, but it's gotten past the concept of why do this anymore? Because you can't. The modern world, it's impossible. Superman and Lois Lane, people would finally be like, aren't you married to that Clark guy? What's this about? You know? So that's the thing. That's really the thing about it all, is that we've grown past the concept of secret identities in the world. It's pretty interesting to think that. It's kind of a growing up. And that's what Civil War is all about. And it's one of the best stories I've ever read. It's beautifully painted in many of them. You can get the trade. There's lots of side stories that you don't have to get but are good. Some of them are very good at this point, but it gets retconned. Spider-Man revealed his identity. I loved it. It was new. It was something new. Spider-Man's on the side of pro-registration because Iron Man convinces him of that. Because you see how him and Iron Man's his mentor. And then eventually Spider-Man goes to the other side because he's like, I was wrong, you know? Because his life gets turned upside down from revealing his secret identity, and it wasn't the right thing to do. All of that gets retconned, and I hate it. By the devil, by the way. That's who does it. Marvel's Mephisto is essentially the devil. Oh, what they do to Spider-Man is atrocious. It's called Brand New Day. They wipe out his history. They erase his marriage to save his dying aunt. You know, I know we all love our older relatives, but imagine you're like, no, you can erase my whole life because so that she can just stay alive, even though she's like 88, right? She's been on death's door forever. Um, I know that sounds cruel, but again, what he did to his own life, his love with Mary Jane, it's erased. And then remember it. Isn't that sad? So horrible. Mary Jane's technically the one that makes the decision, but horrible. Because who made the decision? Marvel Comics made that decision. It was a terrible decision. Brand New Day was one last day. They kept doing this and they keep screwing it up. They tried to retcon Spidey's origin and it was trash. They said, never mind. Yeah, they're always playing with them because they're always trying to get new people to watch and new people to look. So you have all that, and that is that's a direct response to 9/11 and Patriot Act because it's freedom versus security, which is something we're all still struggling with now, even though some of us don't seem to care. I'm losing it. I'll be honest with you. I'm so tired of my phone listening to me, by the way. All the algorithms, all the stuff, the YouTube recommendations, the ads. I hate it. I don't like it. I try to opt out of all this stuff. And I notice the patterns of what it tries to do based on what you say, what you do. It's listening the whole time. When you're on the phone, there's a text document being recorded looking for keywords. Because remember, they're fighting terror. So they're looking for all the times you say a certain thing. But also, you might have said, I need more Clorox bleach. And then all of a sudden, there's an ad for that on your Facebook page. And I just hate it. So I'm actually changing some of my relationship with smartphones and technology because it's dangerous. I've watched what it's done to people. I've watched what it's done to people's identity. This great Facebook social media experiment over 12 years. I watch a lot of what has happened, as I say, the one side and the other. I've got them both, right? I that zenennial pocket that I'm in, where I've seen both sides of the technology and a little bit of the old-fashioned living. For all of this. And yeah, you all got a little screwed. Growing up without as much technology made it, I don't know, it's weird because the cameras are helping a lot, right? We're showing a lot of crimes, capturing a lot more stuff, being able to do that. Again, everything's a yin yang. Let's not go into it. Everything's a yin yang. The internet was a yin yang, right? Just in general, right? Lots of positives, lots of negatives. So same thing. Same thing with the technology, with the phones, with privacy or with freedom versus security. So it's always a debate, and it's a debate that's going on all the time. And remember, right now, we're the product. So you know that. Oil's always been the biggest commodity up until I think now it might be 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Information became the most monetized and valuable resource. Your data, that became the most important thing. And beat oil, information, because people are buying it up, right? All that was spent at more than oil. So that says a lot. Keep that in mind. Because if an app is free, Facebook's all this stuff's free, because they're charging us by showing us ads, right? And they're charging us by saying, you give us all your info, right? Okay. That's what we're paying. I'd rather opt out and pay $1.99. I'd love it. That'd be fine by me. Don't listen to anything that I do. Don't record it. And I pay you $1.99. Fantastic. But no, because getting you to keep clicking is what's worth a lot to everybody. So watch out. Be aware of the world that you're living in at this point, because we're still at the dawn of some of this. We are. But the term slippery slope exists for a reason. So that's that. That's where Marvel goes. DC, I kind of already did. They're at Rebirth. They're with the Watchmen. That's where DC is these days. They've done it again. They're bringing hope back is what they're trying to do. There have been some good and great stories over the last the last chunk of time. But it's not about me to tell like, oh, you should check out the Court of Owls, or oh, make sure you check out, this Batman story about Joker War, because it's so. There are just good stories, but the pinnacle ones, they exist. You can find them now, and the difference is they didn't change the direction and the course for you. That's why I said from the 90s and kind of on, it's like it's kind of this way now. Ultimates gets very violent, and the Ultimate Universe does finally shut down, but it was what people wanted at the time, a more violent, more in your face, just people die, characters you love die, characters you love that weren't gay are gay, characters that you've known get in different they immediately just like, oh, you know that whole triangle between Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean Grey? Guess what? Wolverine's going to nail Jean Grey right in the beginning of these books, right there. She picks Wolverine instead. And then that evolves into like they're like a triple. Like that's what they are. I think even now they've just modernized it. Like this is the world. Like, yep, we're this. I think a friend of mine called it a thruple. I don't know, but they might acknowledge that like, yeah, they're all together. Like who knows what it is? Pretty interesting. I don't know. Again, that's what they did. Remember what I said in Red Sun Superman again? Pinnacle book, phenomenal story that came out around in this era where what if Superman landed in Russia? Yikes! It's a great book. It's only like 2-3 books. Read it. It's one of the best what ifs ever. Soviet Superman. So there are a few. There are a few Pinnacle. A lot of them are some of those what if things. But they're not as big a deal as, like, say, The Killing Joke, when Barbara Gordon got shot and was paralyzed by the Joker. And he was only doing that to torture Commissioner Gordon because that's Batman's friend. He did not know that that was Batgirl. At least I believe he did. No, yeah, I don't think they ever, like, made it so. Of course he knew. Like, because sometimes they'll do that. Where they'll say Joker's actually known his identity for decades. He just hasn't cared because he doesn't. So there's that. And there's another Pinnacle moment I didn't bring up. And this is the late 80s, right around Watchmen time, and it is about violence. It's about the fact that Jason Todd was the Robin that replaced Dick Grayson as Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. Okay, and he does that in the 70s. So then it's like there's a new Robin. People didn't like Jason Todd. The way this character was written, he was just, I think, snotty and whiny, and just people didn't like him. So there was a vote. You could vote. I could vote. You call this number, and it's going to be the end of the issue. Vote on if Robin lives or if Robin dies. And the people voted and they killed Robin. And there is the other page. There's the alternate page that's drawn where Batman's holding him and he's all bleeding and dying there. And Batman's smiling happy, goes, he's alive, like still. But no, that's not what happened. That's a Pinnacle moment, right? Huge, huge deal. What happens more is I think independent comics have some more Pinnacle moments. And again, I'm going to find some of those and just post them a bit more because I just want those people to talk to you about them. And now we live in the world where that media exists. Like I could show you what Image Comics people thought about it. I didn't have to regale you with a version of it. I can just show you what they think and what they said from them and a modern perspective. So I'm going to do that with some indie books. I'm going to provide you some lists, okay? And then it might come up in a little bit. I doubt it, but we'll see. Maybe it's just for your own edification, and maybe I have one more little video after this. But this is probably kind of it and kind of the end. So any little bit that I've included here, please include in any of the writings that I've talked about that are coming up. Please include any of it so that I know you're watching it. Let me know that you watched it because that's what made this class feel successful to me, is that you all prove that you watch these videos in your papers by citing me, citing certain stuff. So hopefully you do get through this, cite it a little bit before some questions are due, if I even assign any on Monday, because I did lighten your load a little bit. You saw 1 week I skipped discussion questions, let you all kind of get caught up. It does look like I posted everything at once this week on Thursday, but that's just because I was busy doing some other things. I did assign those assignments via the video, the Watchmen video. I said start reading it now. I even did say that in another class update, which you can't skip those. That's the class. So if you said, oh, I didn't know we had to read the Watchmen until you posted that thing, that's on you. I put that in the class update. So some people had about 3 weeks and change to do this final because I told them about it very early. So, and that's again, if you watch the demos, if you watch the videos. So be aware of that. The collage you've known about practically half the semester. So hopefully you still got, a lot of energy behind that, and you've started it because you had 3 weeks for that. And now you're a little less than a week and we're getting there. So, and again, that's the time of this recording. When this recording comes out, you might have a couple of days. So good luck with that. If I don't make another little final farewell, or I probably will just to do it because I want to go over everything anyway and I want to react to your finals. So there will be one more follow-up video. So I won't give you a nice long goodbye now because hopefully you'll watch it because I'm going to just be nice and say goodbye. So look to that. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed everything so far. This does cover a bit of that, a bit of where we are now with the Steel Age. The best thing about it, obviously, and when it comes to when I'm talking about pinnacle moments, is now that we do have all those things to talk about. North Star getting married, but again, a lot of other gay and lesbian characters. Even there's characters that now, but we're representing people's bodies better. You know, there's heavier superheroes. They're really, again, comics beats everyone. And again, wrestling does a little bit too. Comics beats everyone with things like acceptance of all these cultures. They really do embrace it a lot quicker than most people do. So look to comics. If comics are doing it, you can expect things are headed in the right direction, okay? And comics have been doing a lot for the trans community, for the LGBTQ community, all of it, for everyone, for African Americans, obviously, back in the 70s, like we were saying, and all the people along the way that have needed help, that want to feel empowered and need someone to represent them. That is what happens, and that's why you have certain people like, I love Banshee because I'm Scottish, and he's my Scottish superhero. Or no, he's Irish, right? He's my Irish superhero. People have that. They have that in them. So characters do mean a lot. They kind of define who you are, and that's why you kind of get attached to them. So now more people have more characters that they can get attached to. They have heroes that they can get attached to, and that's very important for a lot of you. Because, yeah, you know, straight white guy like me growing up, very easy to love Peter Parker who marries a supermodel, because that's what I want, right? Very easy. But now, if you're growing up as any version of a human being, you have representation. And if you don't yet, you have the outlet for you to make it, okay? You can make that representation. You can be the voice. You should be the voice. If you see a problem, you should fix it. If you see a hole, fill it. Okay, if you, this is the way we've always done it, is the worst sentence ever said. Okay, and that's the idea. I use that thing about a hole because sometimes people worry about stuff, and I'm like, if you see a hole in front of you, you're not going to fall into it because you're talking about it. I hope I don't fall in that hole. I hope I don't do that. I hope I don't do that. It's right there. You're going to step over it. Okay, it's the mistakes. Mistakes are things you don't see. So worry is almost pointless. Okay, dread is pointless. A lot of people dread the unknown. All right, so if you open a door and there's a dark room, I'm begging you to walk in, because you got to start feeling around the walls, and then you might just find the light switch and it might be there and you didn't actually have to walk in that dark room. But walk into a dark room, because just because you've never done something and you're afraid doesn't mean that when you walk in there and turn on the light, it's not super easy, super digestible, not hard, not harder than you thought, not worse than you thought. A lot of people dread things, even if it's a breakup, they dread it and then they do it. It's like, I thought I'd feel worse, right? So all of those things are just some of these last bits of lessons that I like to throw at you. I don't know, why not? But let's call it there, because it's about 40 minutes, which is a nice, these videos have been averaging about 20 minutes. Like I said, that was about double up with multimedia movies and a bit of the Steel Age now, getting you to modern times. So I am really proud of the cards you all did. I loved a lot of the work. I talked about that in the previous video. You really all did step it up. So thank you very, very much. One last video to come. Just keep grinding. You got a few days left. And I won't spoil the ending of all of this. Maybe I'll save that for the last goodbye. I'm not sure. I guess now's the time to tell you. Guess what? I canceled the test. I canceled the test. No test. That's why I did the Watchmen. I just, a few weeks ago when I said I'm going to change things, that's the thing. That's the choice I made, which is why I gave you, I'm going to make them read this very long book, this 6-hour watch along, and then they've got to read a magazine article, and then they've got to watch another video. I'll probably post it tomorrow, because by then you should, or maybe I'll go post it now, because you should watch that one. That's the one that now dissects everything. And they're going to show you, because I don't want a video of you going like, I think the allegory of the Watchmen was this. No, I want you to actually be shown what it was. Read what Alan Moore was hoping to achieve, okay? Then you read the whole book and you got what you took away from it, and I want you to talk about all of that in one big sandwich of the Watchmen, the experience of the Watchmen, your opinion of the Watchmen, right? So, test canceled. Have you ever had a better teacher? Ha ha ha. What a fun thing to do for a group, right? So, no test. You've all proven to me that you are watching and paying attention based on the papers you're writing, so keep that up. I better be cited. I better have this video cited in the last paper, I'll tell you that much. And I'll even put that right here. You better cite this video in one of your last papers so that I know you watched this video too. If there's not a cite for this one and this video has 2 views, someone's losing some points. Don't let it be you. All right. Thanks so much. Get to work, but at least you don't have to study. So just keep working, work hard, and just put your heart into it. I can't wait to see these collages because, like I said, seeing those covers, seeing the cards, seeing the comic strip, and now the covers, this project that I had envisioned, a lot of you have done it better than I hoped, and some of you really did level up to, wow, you got it to what I was hoping. So good job. Honestly, good job. Let's call it there. Toot toot, you're all doing a great job. You're doing a great job. Yeah.